to us and their team that they're interested in making sure that Palm Beach County is whole in terms of the costs that we are expending for security. So that's encouraging. The one issue, though, that I really need to emphasize, and that is when we created the initial program for reimbursements, law enforcement was the only component that was included as part of that. Fire rescue and the work that we do with our rescue vehicles on motorcades, and there are usually 2 vehicles, a motorcade with 2 crews, have not been a reimbursable expense. And so we've been working very closely with our congressional delegation to make sure that as they reauthorize some of those dollars in the program going forward, that they include in there some of those fire rescue expenses that we have not gotten reimbursements for. So that's going to be a real focus in trying to tweak the pieces of whatever the program is to make sure that we can get that reimbursement going forward. Now, granted, the lion's share of the dollars are law enforcement dollars that we have. I mean, that's the overwhelming amount of that. But it's not inconsequential what we spend in fire rescue services for that.
Well, I appreciate your efforts on this. We certainly don't want to pull back on any security issues that we may have in terms of what's necessary. If we get, no, let me put it this way. When we get, I'm an optimist. I'm a realist. When we get reimbursed, do we get reimbursed this fiscal year, or do we have to wait until 2026?
So that is the question. And what I can tell you, under the FEMA program that exists today for the reimbursement, we were reimbursed basically a year after the services that we provided. So towards the end of the year is when we would submit to FEMA all of our accountings for services provided and then reimbursed for those services. Depending on the structure and how they want to do this initially, whether they look to Secret Service to maybe do some direct contracting, because keep in mind, Secret Service is who asked us in the county and the sheriff to do the extraordinary protections that we've been doing since near July. So we've been working pretty closely with the agency and others to see if that's an option, similar to what we did with DOJ on the front end of 8 years ago. But again, that's still, I think, open.
You'll let us know if people need to lobby themselves, through their means to get to our reimbursement. In addition to what we are asking for reimbursement for county expenses, will we also, or will there be included city expenses from, say, the city of Palm Beach or roads? Was that also included in our request for reimbursement?
Yes, ma'am. We have been coordinating with both the sheriff, fire rescue, the town of Palm Beach, and those are really the 3 entities that have incurred the expenditures for this protective efforts. So all of those dollars have been forwarded up to Washington, D.C. for consideration, and our airports.
Okay, very good. $850,000 you mentioned up here from Congresswoman Frankel for the homeless. Not housing, but for the homeless. Which department in the county will receive that money?
That, I believe, will go to community services.
Okay.
That was a request from that department.
Okay. And will we get a report once that money comes in? I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you. And again, I share with my colleague Flores with regard to these federal grants being paused. We need to be, if we get money in from the feds, let's spend it, let's do something with it. I don't want to sit on it. Whatever we can do to expedite, because that's our money up there. We pay in federal taxes, and we certainly would like to, we need it. We certainly would like to.
I can assure you the administrator is committed to spending those dollars when they come in from the feds.
I like that.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I actually have a couple questions. North County Airport, I mean, if we're going to be dealing with Lantana the way it is, anything that we can do at North County can help offset Lantana. So anything, and a tower at North County, I know we've been talking about it for a long time, and the runway, we've cleared all the hurdles, the environmental hurdles, so now it's time to get that done.
Yep.
And also, one of the items that we pulled was because a grant ceased, and we were now flexing one of those jobs to an ad valorem job. I know I've said it often enough that if a grant is pulled, those jobs that are along with those grants go away. They don't get absorbed without us knowing it, because these are budget items that we have to vote on in the future. So just a caveat, we need to know, and we do, we have a pretty good accounting of what grant dollars there are, but there's jobs involved with those grant dollars that, if we're administering a program here, we need to make sure that the grant dollars cover what we've written for, and it doesn't fall on our taxpayers to take care of that. So just a note. So Vice Mayor Baxter, your light is on.
I actually do not have any questions. I just wanted to say thank you for all the efforts, the hard work you guys have put in keeping our legislative agenda together, giving us the updates, giving us the information. You've done an amazing job. And especially, my project that I focused on probably the most last year and this year, County Road 880, and helping bring that to the finish line. And it was truly a group effort. So thank you.
Thank you. And I believe we have no more questions, so I believe we have 2 cards on this.
Alexandria Larson and Linda Smith.
It's gotten to the point, Commissioners, when I read the agenda, I die inside. When I saw it in red, the EPA, I think it was 149 pages, I can't remember, I don't care. It was a lot on the legislative, and I promised some people I wouldn't talk about the legislative stuff. But when we're fighting the EPA to make rules better, to have cleaner air and cleaner water and cleaner this and cleaner that, that's pretty bad. And it was in red, Commissioners. I guess they put it in red so you could find it. It was really easy to find. It was shocking to me. I'm scrolling through the pages, and I just see red, but I didn't read it right away. But it was the EPA. It was shocking. I'm letting you know that because the incinerators are not clean. They are not perfect. Nothing is perfect that comes out of a stack anywhere in the United States. North County Airport, I have some concerns because we bought 33,000 acres of land to preserve it all around that North County Airport. We did. We took $50 million we voted for, and we bought a lot of land. The county did really good buying environmental land. They didn't do great with the ag reserve and preserve, but they did great with the environmental. But to see things in red that will, I don't know, clean air is a good thing. It really is. And there's been a lot of instances with our incinerators and the different things that we have in this county. New sources of pollution. We got a power plant, sits on Southern. We've got an incinerator. We got another power plant in Riviera Beach. These all are emissions. We're breathing them in. When you see a cloudy sky, the gray, that's when the humidity has stuck it right on top of us. It doesn't move when it's humid. Just take it into consideration because it's like a slap in the face to us, your people, and you too, your kids, your grandkids. We need clean air, we really do. And we got some real problems. And I don't think expanding the North County Airport in environmental lands that we bought makes a lot of sense. I've talked to pilots, they said they didn't need a bigger runway, but that's their opinion, not mine. I'm not a pilot. But I do. I hope we really seriously look at what we are doing in this county when it comes to breathing. That's important. So thank you. Please look at it. Do not fight the EPA.
Thank you. Ms. Smith?
Good morning. Linda Smith, Sierra Club, Jupiter, Florida. There are many things in this Palm Beach County 2025 federal legislation agenda that I agree with, and I really support many of the items in the environmental and natural resources section. I hope you would know, I support water resources development and changes to the national environmental policy to hold federal regulatory agencies accountable And, of course, the Loxahatchee River Watershed Restoration Plan, near and dear to my heart, in Jupiter. What I did find is a bit of an anomaly is the category about the EPA proposal rule on waste-to-energy facilities. And I'm not going to address the oxymoron about waste-to-energy at this time. So the EPA is updating the standards, I believe that was discussed, about performance and emission guidelines. The guidelines that I have heard we have violated a few times. The violations were just anomalies, a bad sensor, bad, very bad sensor. So you fixed it. That's great. As an architect, I know, well, I think everybody knows, you should have smoke detectors in your home. There's a rule, there's a standard. You have to have a smoke detector installed to be awarded a certificate of occupancy. Once the homeowner moves in, it's up to them to maintain them. Get the ladder out, get a new battery, maybe replace it. But if the owner wants to ignore the beeping telling them to replace the battery, it's okay. They're only putting their family at risk. I think what you're asking here is for the legislature to not hold you accountable for the poisoning of Palm Beach County family for 10 years. It's too hard. I don't have the ladder. I know I'm oversimplifying, but we went to the moon when some people said it couldn't be done. And currently, the existing monitoring requirements are not 24/7. Would you really want your smoke detector at home to only work on Tuesdays and Thursdays? And the implementation period ends when the new state-of-the-art facility can be built. Does that mean that Ref 2 will be shut down in 2034? Or is that just how long it's going to take you to fix the monitoring and they'll be okay? Please don't put this in the environment and natural resources category. I don't think it belongs in the health and human services category. I think maybe you need to consider a new category. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And back to our legislative panel. With regard to the EPA, the alternative would be the expansion of our landfills if we were to take the waste energy facility out of use, if it were to go out of use right now, which would, and I know there's a life to the landfill for a level of service, but when we expand the landfill, can you explain, and maybe not go into so much detail, the idea of methane gas and the cost to climate change that it produces, and what we'd be looking at if that were the case?
Well, a couple of things. One, first, we've been working pretty closely with Solid Waste Authority on this particular issue. It was actually brought to us from Solid Waste Authority, and working with our members of Congress on this issue. You might recall, it's not easy siting a landfill, a new landfill, and that's very, very, very difficult to do. So that is one piece that you have to look at. Second, you want to preserve the landfill that you have for as long as you possibly can where you have them, which is, I think, what Solid Waste Authority is trying to do at the moment, and looking for one of the most efficient ways to do that historically has been through some of the waste-to-energy facilities that exist. Ours was built in 2015. It was built under the current rules that existed. It was permitted, and a tremendous amount of dollars went into that from folks right here in Palm Beach County. I don't think that we're fighting with the EPA on this. We're working with the EPA on this and trying to just make some reasonable accommodations for a facility that is very expensive. It's close to $1 billion investment at the end of the day, and trying to maximize what we set out to do with that early on, instead of having sort of the rules changed, midway through the game. But the reality of it is that we'd either be putting more garbage in our existing landfills, or doing what Miami-Dade and other counties are doing, and that's putting their garbage on trains and shipping it to other counties and paying them to take it to put into their landfills. So the alternatives are not very good alternatives, and I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you.
I see no other lights on. We have taken all the questions from our audience. Thank you very much. I have a motion to adopt from Commissioner Woodward, a second from Commissioner Flores. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? See that the motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We are now on to item 5C1. Does anyone need a staff presentation? I'm not seeing anybody turn their lights on. May I have a motion to approve, please?
Make a motion to approve. Okay. Motion to approve.
And may I have a second? Do I have any comment cards? Thank you. Do I have a second? Commissioner Flores? All in favor? All opposed? See that the motion carries 5-0. We are now on 5C2. This needs a supermajority vote of 5 commissioners. Does anybody want a presentation?
Could they do a Reader's Digest?
Sure, Reader's Digest version, thank you.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. This is Mia Ayala, Assistant County Administrator and Director of Facilities Development and Operations. With me today is Ms. Purvi Bugaira, Director of Facilities, Property and Real Estate Management Division, and Howard Falcon, Chief Assistant County Attorney. Purvi, if you can assist.
Sure. Good morning. Today we are seeking approval of a deposit receipt and contract for sale and purchase agreement with True Gospel Holiness Christian Center Incorporated for the sale of approximately 5,320 square feet of retail space located at 361 West Avenue A in Belle Glade at a purchase price of $250,000. In March 2012, the subject property was acquired by American Sound through the county's Department of Housing and Economic Development's Section 108 Business Loan Program, funded through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Given that HUD funds were utilized for the acquisition, Palm Beach County was required to hold the first lien on the property, which served as collateral for HUD. The county acquired the property on December 9, 2020 via certificate of sale when American Sound failed to pay back the loan. The property is being sold to repay HUD due to non-repayment of the loan. The parcel is zoned B1 Central Business District per the City of Belle Glade. In August 2024, staff issued invitation for bids to sell the property. The IFB was advertised in the Palm Beach Post, listed on PREM's website and the county's Channel 20 television station, and was available through purchasing vendor self-service system. Staff obtained an appraisal which valued the property at $213,000, which value was established as the required minimum bid. Only one bid was received from True Gospel in the amount of $250,000. An executed deposit receipt and contract for sale and purchase with a purchase price of $250,000 was received from True Gospel, together with a 10% deposit in the amount of $25,000. The property will be conveyed with no warranty or representation of any nature, including without any limitation relating to access or the bidder's ability to use the property for any intended purpose. True Gospel will pay documentary stamps and recording costs and will accept the property in as-is condition. The county will retain mineral rights in accordance with Section 270.11 of the Florida statutes, but will not retain rights of entry or exploration. Closing is anticipated to occur within 30 days of approval by the board.
Thank you. Any questions? Commissioner Flores?
Yeah, it's just a comment. I'm a very visual person, and I like to see visuals. And when I looked at the backup on this particular, the only thing you see is a aerial view from above. We're selling something. I think maybe when we move forward in future presentations, have at least a picture of what we're selling so that we get a better idea. And I'm talking about selling something, but it could be other things.
Understood. We will accommodate in future agenda items, certainly.
Thank you.
We have no cards. There's 6 of us here. We need a supermajority vote of 5 in order for this to pass.
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion from Commissioner Woodward,
Second.
second from Vice Mayor Baxter. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? See that the motion carries 6-0. Item 5C3 has been deleted. We are now on to item 5D1. Staff is looking for a motion to approve a resolution repealing and replacing a previous resolution. Staff presentation? Do we need a presentation?
Yes.
Nope. Okay, Commissioner Sachs says yes.
Do you have any cards on it?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. This is an agenda item for Cooperative Extension Services. Our Director of Cooperative Extension, Ron Rice, is with me, as well as Annie Helfant from our County Attorney's Office. So this is a resolution that we put together at the request of the Board of County Commissioners at your May 23rd, 2024 zoning meeting, where you had extensive conversations there about, one, the composition, bless you, of this committee that we have in place, or this council, I should say, our Ag Enhancement Council, as well as regarding term limits and the need to potentially allow, particularly this board that has a much smaller potential pool of applicants to serve on this particular board, and it's been difficult over the years to be able to fill all of those positions. So that direction was given to us at that board meeting. We took it then to the Ag Enhancement Council, worked very closely with the County Attorney's Office. What's before you today is 2 new seats that will be going onto that Ag Enhancement Council. One dealing with a small farmer, those being farmers that farm under 50 acres, as well as having a representative from the agritourism industry, and then also the term limit component of that moving forward. So that is what we brought to you today after the Ag Enhancement Council voted unanimously to support those changes and recommended those changes to the Board of County Commissioners. So that is our brief presentation to you on that. We'll answer any questions that you might have.
Commissioner Sachs.
Thank you for pulling it for the discussion. I think you're doing a wonderful job. I think it's very important that we maintain a strong agricultural area. And, you know, Palm Beach County is second largest agricultural county in the state. Some say we're the first. But either way, this is important, and I appreciate all that you do. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome. I have an odd question. Number 10, where it says compliance with Palm Beach County Code of Ethics in the brief. Is there any element that members must be in good standing with Palm Beach County, such as no code cases or open litigation in Palm Beach County? And you know what, this would be across the board for any committee, not just this one. But we've never really talked about it, and I think it's a topic worth discussing.
I am not aware of anything in our code of ethics that says that you can't participate on a committee or be appointed because you have a pending code case or a pending litigation against the county.
Okay.
And for the applicability in this particular ordinance, it deals with that the Ag Enhancement Council members comply with the provision of the Code of Ethics that are codified in that code. So training and those kinds of things is what it specifically deals with for purposes of this resolution that's before you today.
And if I may, just to clarify, there is a resolution that talks about board membership, and part of this was to change that resolution. This board can always decide through that resolution that you want to make additional requirements as far as appointments or composition of boards.
Thank you. Commissioner Sachs, your light is on.
Yeah, I think that was a very good point you brought up, Mayor. I hadn't thought of it. And this is a question for the attorney. Is it true that if you have a conviction of a felony, you cannot serve on a county board?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
I can look into it.
Please, because I have.
Absolutely, but I'm not aware of that.
You know, sometimes felonies can be 3 license suspensions. and it's a third degree.
Well,
But somebody was not able to serve because she had a previous felony conviction. I was just wondering if we could look into it.
sure, I'll look into it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Ms. Fields?
There is a question on the advisory board application that asks whether there's a felony conviction, but it does not preclude someone from serving on it. It just requires a disclosure, and then the determination can be made by the board as to whether the person can be on the board. But it doesn't preclude it. It just does require the identification.
I wonder if, and I'm speaking to the county, and I know you're also an attorney, Tammy. I wonder, I don't see any problem with that. It's just that let's review it. Maybe we could also ask, and I don't know, but could ask what type of felony it is, so that we have that information. Because I think a lot of folks, I mean, I'm telling you, third degree, if you steal something over a certain amount of money, you get a felony. But there are some felonies that may be troublesome. So I think maybe if we would delineate, ask them to delineate what was the date of conviction, that it would be a little more open discussion to get more people involved in our commissions.
The application does state, it asks for identification of what it was and when it occurred and the disposition, the current disposition. So we did get that information.
We also put in there that a conviction, a previous conviction on a felony does not preclude you from serving on a board for the county?
Actually, that is one of the things that we're working on right now, and we'll be bringing back the advisory board information to the Board of County Commissioners in the near future.
The near future. Let's make it nearer than future.
Understood.
If we could, I appreciate it. This way we get a broader tent. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to add to what Commissioner Sachs was saying with regard to conviction of a felony. The question I have is, I guess it should be something that should be studied. Not only the nature of the felony, but if the person who committed a felony or was convicted of a felony, if they have completed their sentence and they're no longer, facing any terms of incarceration, if they're not on probation, how do we treat those people who have? I mean, if we're going to look at the nature of the conviction, are we going to permanently look at people who have been convicted of a felony, and are we going to look at different classifications? That would be something that I would be interested in knowing if that's the consideration for serving on a board,
I will say that generally the way we treat people who've been convicted of a felony is on an individual basis. If they've been convicted of a felony that involves fraud, dishonesty, or moral turpitude, then that may impact your ability to do certain things, like be a tow truck driver. Or be a vehicle for hire driver. We want to protect the public, but each case is individual. If your felony conviction was, 20 years ago, and you've had a clean record since then certainly that is something that would be taken into account. We do not say that people are automatically disqualified from employment or from positions merely because they have a felony conviction. But the circumstances are taken into account. What was the conviction for? When was the conviction? What's happened since that conviction? And does it have any relevancy at all to the position that you're now applying for or the service that you're about to give? There are, in fact, some committees where it might be helpful to have people who understand what it's like to rehabilitate yourself. So all of those things come into account.
Thank you. Good
Madam Mayor.
discussion. Sure.
So as a follow-up, that would be similar to serving in public office. We all have the ability to serve in public office even if we have been convicted of a felony. unless it's certain felonies, including things like honest services fraud, or if it had something to do with the office that we served in. So we would look at it similarly, correct?
Exactly.
Okay, just for my edification.
Yes,
Thank you.
that is exactly right. And, you know, obviously, if you're asking to be employed in a department where you're dealing with seniors and you had a felony last year where you beat a senior up, then that's going to be relevant to our consideration. But if it was something that happened when you were a juvenile or that happened a long time ago and it had nothing to do with violence, then that's going to be taken into consideration, and it's not going to preclude you. Everybody basically has a history, and the question is whether that history is relevant now to what you're asking for or applying for.
Well, it's about redemption, so. All right, there's no more lights on, and so I would need a motion.
Mayor, I'd like to make the motion to approve 5D1.
I have a first from Vice Mayor, second from Commissioner Woodward. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? See that the motion carries 7-0, and let the record reflect that Commissioner Weiss has joined us. Thank you. All right, we are now on to 5E1, Housing and Economic Development. Do we have any cards on 5E1? No? Would anyone like a staff presentation? Thank you.
Gotcha.
Good morning. Okay, who's going first?
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. So this
Can you
item
pull
we're bringing before
Excuse me, can you
today-
pull the mic a little closer?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
This item that we're bringing before you today is a request to add CDBG dollars to the Philip D. Lewis Center. Those dollars that we're going to provide now is going to help complete the project costs. We've provided some CDBG in the past in 2024. This will be an additional request of CDBG. Community Services has also secured an additional $1 million in HUD community project funding. And today, we're just seeking your approval to add these CDBG dollars in order to create the new respite beds, et cetera, within this facility.
Wonderful. Any questions? Commissioner Weiss?
Thank you. Just my only question is, in regards to this, is this creating additional new beds? Are we losing space? What's the net impact?
We're gaining beds with this. Some of the administrative area is being converted into additional beds that will be used for medical respite.
Excellent. Okay, with that, Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and make the motion to approve item 5E1, A, B, and C.
Thank you, Commissioner Weiss. And I have a second from Vice Mayor Baxter. All in favor? All opposed? See that the motion carries 6-0 for 5-1A, B, and C. Moving on, we are now on 5E2. Anybody need a presentation? Commissioner Sachs?
Thank you, I would, please.
Okay. 5E2.
Good morning again, Mayor, Vice.
Pull your microphone closer, please. Thank you.
Good morning again, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. This item is our State Housing Initiatives Partnership Program Local Housing Assistance Plan. We're required by statute on an annual basis to update this plan. It's called the LHAP. We go through a very public process to get feedback with the Commission on Affordable Housing and working with, as you can see at the table, multiple departments are involved. And this is just our report. The statute requires certain things to be considered each year. So some of it is things you've seen it in past years, and we're just continuing the support of those. And then there are a few items, and Carlos Serrano from HED will be going over some of the ones where staff is partially supporting versus fully supporting. And I'll turn it over to Carlos.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. We'll jump right into it. The first recommendation from the Commission on Affordable Housing has to do with expediting building permits or development approvals. The recommendation was that the county continued its current efforts towards expediting approvals for all projects that are at least 65% affordable or workforce units. Staff concurs with the CH recommendation and is continuing to expedite accordingly. The second incentive area has to do with fee waivers. The recommendation from the CH, a little louder? Sorry about that. The second incentive area has to do with the waiver of fees related to housing development. And the recommendation from the CAH was to defer collection of impact fees until a certificate of occupancy is issued. And secondly, to suspend collection of transfer of development rights fees for all housing priced below 200% of the average sales price or rent. Now, staff supports continued provision of the existing incentives, which includes impact fee assistance, but does not support the deferral of collection of impact fees until CO. Nor does staff support the suspension of the fees associated with the transfer of development rights. Those fees that are associated with transfer of development rights fund the Department of Environmental Resource Management's Natural Areas Program. That program provides for the management of approximately 32,000 acres of natural areas here within the county. Those transfer of development right fees for income restricted, either affordable or workforce units, are already reduced to no more than a few $100s for those affordable or workforce units. The third incentive area was for the allowance of flexible densities for affordable housing. And we're going to cover this incentive on a recommendation that comes at the end of the sequence. The fourth was in the area of the reservation of infrastructure capacity. The county currently provides some allowances with traffic performance standards, roadway level of service for affordable and workforce development, and the recommendation from the advisory board was that the county continue to provide these allowances. The fifth incentive area had to do with affordable accessory residential units, or as they're referred to locally, ADUs, accessory dwelling units. The recommendation from the CEH was to allow for greater opportunity for the development of ADUs in residential areas, including removing the current requirement for an electrical feed from the main home. Current requirements say that electrical service to the ADU must come through the meter on the main home. The recommendation is to remove that and allow for separate metering. Additionally, the CH recommended that ADUs do not count ADUs as a separate housing unit when doing density calculations. Staff partially supports the recommendation and recently amended code to incorporate some of the prior recommendations from the CAH. However, staff does not support the separate electrical metering, nor the exclusion of the ADU from density calculations. The sixth incentive area has to do with parking requirements. The county's ULDC currently requires 1.75 parking spaces per residential unit and 1 guest space for every 4 units. There's currently some reductions that are permitted through a administrative type 1 waiver. The recommendation from the CH was that the ULDC be revised so that the minimum parking requirements that are being offered by a type 2 waiver are instead offered by right. The zoning division is currently working to establish a type 2 waiver process. This would require BCC approval for projects that are utilizing the affordable housing program. That waiver would allow for 1 space per bedroom per unit, per 1-bedroom unit, 1.5 spaces per 2-bedroom unit, 1.75 spaces per 3-bedroom unit. That work by the zoning division is in process. The next incentive area has to do with allowing flexible lot configurations, zero lot line development. That'll be addressed in the subsequent recommendation. Next has to do with modification of street requirements for affordable housing. The county currently offers some flexibility here, and the recommendation from the advisory board was to continue providing the existing flexibilities. Next incentive area had to do with review of local government policies, procedures, ordinances. The recommendation from the CH there had been that the county implement the applicable recommendations of the Housing Leadership Council's Housing for All countywide housing plan. Staff supports the recommendation. The HLC's Housing for All plan was endorsed and supported by the Board of County Commissioners back in January of last year, and county staff is currently working to identify and implement applicable recommendations from that plan. The next incentive area had to do with an inventory of locally owned public lands. This is something that PREM does already. The recommendation was that the county identify all county-owned vacant and underutilized properties that could be used for residential infill redevelopment opportunities, and to make a list of county-owned properties available to the public. PREM recently reviewed all county-owned properties, approximately 2,600 parcels in total, determined that the vast majority are under the control of environmental resource management, parks and rec, or airports, and have uses or otherwise cannot be developed. Of the 179 vacant county-owned parcels, all but one had some assigned future use or development constraints. The 1 6-acre parcel that was determined as suitable for affordable housing is being offered by PREM through an RFP. That's that property on the north side of Okeechobee Boulevard, just east of the Turnpike. Next incentive area had to do with the development, TOD development. The recommendation from the board was that the county review with local governments and transportation providers solutions for affordable housing near transportation hubs. The staff was in support of that, and the county continues to work with other local government jurisdictions and transportation providers. And the final incentive area, which covered several of those, has to do with flexible zoning and custom property development regulations. The recommendation was that the county consider adoption of alternative property development regulations community-wide that would establish an approval process for custom property development regulations. That's supported by staff, and the zoning division is currently working to establish a type 2 waiver, again, which would require BCC approval for flexible development regulations. It would, having that kind of process would offer an opportunity to overcome some general development challenges that are encountered, such as parking for high-density projects, on-site recreational requirements that are imposed on smaller projects, setbacks for certain types of townhomes, and limitations on building heights. So that's something that's currently being worked on by the zoning division. Next steps from here, we would look to the board to approve the staff recommendations and the amendment to the local housing assistance plan. Staff would incorporate any board-directed changes into that LHAP amendment, then finalize that and submit that to the state by the statutory deadline of March 13th, after which the various departments that would be affected by the board-directed incentives would go about making changes and changing procedures in order to implement those. And at this time, we'd be happy to address any questions from the board. Thank you.
Commissioner Woodward, your light is on.
Thank you, Mayor. I had a couple of questions to go back to item number 2. And Ms. Fields, I asked about this yesterday. It's in the recommendations, or I think what we're currently doing, it's for new residential construction. It goes up to 140% AMI, and I was asking, could we address that, because this board has taken the approach to have a lower AMI on that, and I think you said that maybe on that one it could go down to 120 and still fall in line with the state funding. Is that correct?
As we reviewed that, it's really only going to 140 for home ownership. We can clarify that in our LHAP. We are applying the 110 for rental properties.
And the board did approve that in the impact fee guidelines to 110%.
110%, but so this is only for sale properties to go up to 140%.
Yes, and we can make sure that we clarify that in the LHAP that is submitted.
And why do we need to keep it at 140? Can you remind me?
This is something that is up to the board to make that determination. The reason why we had, and it at 140 is it is difficult right now to have for sale units and make them affordable, and so we were going at the 140 instead of the 120 or 110. But that is ultimately a Board of County Commissioners determination.
Okay, so and maybe that's we need more information type of discussion. As I know that that's a high number. I don't know how the rest of the board feels on that. I had just a few more items, if I may, Mayor. Item number 5. This one is on the ADUs. I know that staff, you're doing research on what some municipalities are doing. Is this something that will come back to us maybe in the form of a workshop or a future agenda item that we can really dive into what we could do with the ADUs? Where do we stand with that?
Commissioner, yes, I can. Little more research needed on our end in implementing some statutory provisions, but yes, we'll get back to you.
Okay, so that one. And then items 6 and 12, it's the same. I just would like to lend my support that we keep the waiver, that I would prefer a waiver instead of just kind of having a blanket change on the flexible zoning or the parking requirements, because that it needs to be a case-by-case basis. I mean, on some of these areas, if we were to waive parking and it is nowhere near a public transportation zone, I mean, that wouldn't be right for those residents. We know they need cars, and I've visited people who live in some of these areas where there's no parking and they're parking out on the road. And as it was brought to my attention yesterday, some of these, they actually just tow the people. So, you know, if they're renting there and they are nowhere close to public transportation, that's why we need to have the waiver, so we can actually look at it closer. And does it make sense for that property and for the residents who are eventually going to move there? The same thing with the flexible zoning. Any of those with the higher densities and stuff, we can't have like a blanket solution for this county. It's going to really depend on where the property is. So I definitely support keeping the waiver requirements so that we can look closer and make sure that we're making a good decision for those properties. That's all I have. Thank you.
I'm not sure who put their light on first, so Commissioner Sachs?
Maybe I should just keep that light on all the time. Thank you, Madam Mayor. In relation to what my colleague, Commissioner Woodward, was talking about, we received these recommendations in December of last year, but we have until March 19th to submit. How do we do this? How are you going to come back to us with the recommendations that were just enumerated by my colleague, Commissioner Woodward, in time to meet the deadline?
So Commissioner, the ADU item, again, was brought back by PZB as a separate item, a separate discussion. As far as for this LHAP, today what we're doing is seeking guidance and direction and ultimately approval for the board. And if there are changes that the board wants to incorporate, we'll do that in order to ensure we don't have any issues with receiving our state funding.
Before March 19th, you're going to come back to us with these amendments or recommendations or proposals?
The intent was to receive your direction today, and we would take whatever motions are made today and incorporate it to be able to send up. You will see this again every year, and in future years, additional changes could be made. But we would take whatever direction you give us today and make those changes
Today.
Today,
And get back to us before that deadline of March 19th?
We were not
Could I
intending
clar-
on bringing it back
Could I
as an
clarify?
item, but we would definitely, we'll copy the board with all of the changes that are made based on your direction.
If I
Woodward, you
could,
have-
thank you.
you
I
wanted
just
to
wanted to clarify that on the first two items, I am asking for future, I guess, agenda items on those. And for the last ones, I'm supporting, because it was a partial support from staff for what the commission or the committee put together, and I am agreeing with their, so I'm not asking you to change those, I'm asking you to keep the waivers, because that is what you recommended, and that's what would be putting in what we send to the state.
You're agreeing with staff.
I am agreeing with staff on those. I'm lending my extra support to make sure that you keep those, because it did differ from what the housing committee had put to us. And this is a change from that, but I am supporting what staff has recommended. I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Okay. So with regard to parking, that's going to be part of your recommendation, right? Excellent. Let's go back to slide 9 and 10. Well, actually, I'm sorry. Let's just go right ahead to 10, if we could. Okay. Counties should continue to base street and related. Have we checked in with the municipalities on these recommendations for street requirements?
Commission, well, go ahead, Carlos. I don't think so.
I was going to say, the Commission on Affordable Housing, the advisory board, does communicate through staff with local municipalities and does share information about what the county is currently offering in the way of incentives or what recommendations are being contemplated by the advisory board with the municipalities and with the few
So you already
other
have.
local housing advisory committees that there are within City of West Palm Beach, City of Delray Beach, and there's a couple
Okay,
others.
very good. They didn't give us a lot of time. From December to March is not a lot of time. So we're really pushing it here, and I appreciate your speed. Let's go. So we're already connected with the municipalities for engineering issues on streets. So I appreciate that. Going on to slide 11. Go ahead and slide.
Commissioner Sachs, I'm going to interrupt you for a moment because
Yes.
Ms. Baker has her light on.
Simply want to clarify that it is not our staff dealing directly with the cities. It is the Commission on Affordable Housing having those discussions with cities, because we're only covering the unincorporated area, which we're responsible for. We always coordinate with cities as much as possible, but it is the Commission on Affordable Housing dealing. I just want it to be
Because we have no jurisdiction over areas that are
on rule, so I just wanted to
in
make sure that
municipalities.
that was clear.
Thank you.
So if we're only dealing with highways and unincorporated, then that means that we have good public transportation on our county roads. That's what your jurisdiction has been. And that's good, right? So we're going to have transit corridors on county roads so that we can have affordable housing in unincorporated areas, right? Or not?
No, Commissioner, we're working with the department, the engineering department that does that work. And so we kind of liaise with those departments to make sure. And then we work with developers in terms of where they're looking to place housing projects.
Because I represent unincorporated. I don't have any transit corridors out there that I necessarily know of that are major, but I'm sure you've already checked with that. So our developers will develop these on transit corridors wherever they exist in unincorporated areas. If we could see number 11, please, then I'm done. Okay, good. Yeah, this is what it comes down to. I love this idea. So this is only in the county that we have jurisdiction over. We're going to work with local government jurisdictions, but that's not our job with you. Your job is only county. And I will support this because we have a very tight schedule. But after we support this today, and I'll vote for it, I'd love to know from you where our transportation hubs and major employment centers, I'm just reading off of number 11, and mixed-use developments exist in unincorporated county areas, okay? Because, boy, I'd like to see them. And thank you very much. I don't think they gave you a lot of time, but thank you for what you do. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you, Mayor. On item number 5, and I brought this up yesterday on the ADUs, I don't support requiring a separate or having it metered to the house. I think it's up to the individual property owner how they want to create their ADU, so I'd like to see that removed. Other jurisdictions are looking at ADUs as a potential source for additional housing. And I think if I look at the way we're looking at them in this document, that's not what they're being considered as. They're being considered as something, an extra room for somebody's home. And I think we need to change our process and think about what they can do to help us alleviate our affordable and workforce housing needs and providing extra availability. And I think that should be the way we're thinking about how to position them. And so by whatever that particular property owner works best for them, I think in this case, they want an extra meter and they're going to pay for it. That's up to them, and we should have no concerns.
And Commissioner, we've had those conversations. I think one of the things that we've always looked for as we've had the ADU conversations is whether or not those existing units can help with our affordable housing. Some of the challenges that we hear is that the homeowners don't want to deed restrict those units. And so how do we ensure they're going to be affordable?
I don't know how what are you giving that homeowner to want to do that, to want to deed restrict it?
Their solution is, their thought is
You're
a
gonna give them a
solution to the
tax?
affordable housing issue, but then there's no way to make sure it's a solution to the affordable housing issue.
But just having more units available helps bring down the price on everything. It's a supply and demand issue, and that's what we're feeling in this county right now. We don't have enough supply, and if ADUs can help alleviate that supply, unless we're wanting to provide tax incentives for people to rent restrict them, I don't know how you would incentivize people to want to rent restrict. My neighborhood, there are many properties. They're older, and they had ADUs as the way they were built. And they have become affordable housing or workforce housing relatively close to an employment center because these folks have these units in their backyard and they're renting them out.
The one time that we would want to put restrictions is if we're providing any funding.
There you go.
And so we would make sure that if there was funding being provided to rehabilitate an ADU unit, then we would require the deed restrictions because it would match up with our funding.
That would make sense if you were putting government money into it.
Thank you. Commissioner, Vice Mayor Baxter.
Thank you, Mayor. If we could go to number 4 briefly, please. One of the things we do up here is balance things quite a bit. And, you know, I understand the need for affordable and workforce housing. It does not escape me. But I have to tell you that our infrastructure is terrible. I think every single commissioner up here has talked about roads being over capacity. So it concerns me on number 4, when we allow up to a 30%, says here, developments can exceed roadway levels of service standards by 30%. Could you elaborate on that a little bit, please?
You're going to look at the engineer?
Yeah, the county engineer.
It's actually a vestige of the original workforce housing program written when we had legitimate concurrency. So you had to meet actual levels of service. This provision allows, with workforce included in it, to exceed those levels, even though I think I would argue that statute utilizing prop share and other provisions might render this not as important as it was at a time and place. But I think it captures an intent to share for any developer that they're providing workforce if they're going to be contributing traffic at higher levels. If they're providing the workforce at the higher levels, they're receiving a benefit from that as well.
How would it impact our code if we removed it altogether? If you're saying as it was important before, but not as important now, what would the impact be?
Off the top of my head,
May I respond to that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it would have a significant impact because the way the new legislation is written, when they come in, they assume we're at our level of service. They stack their impact on top of what they assume is the level of service, and then they write their
So
check
what would the
to us and they
minor
move on.
impact be?
That is, it wouldn't deal with the impact fee. They still have to pay the impact fee or
What would it
proportionate share.
impact? What would it affect? Like, why are we at 30% instead of 20, 40, 60, 80?
I think, as Patrick stated earlier, that back then, it made a difference, and it was more of an incentive to continue to move forward. Besides the additional density, you got this other thing because you put in workforce affordable housing. But the laws have significantly changed. And so I am thinking it will not make a significant impact. We can go back and look at it, but I don't think it's going to make a significant impact if you remove it, based upon today's laws.
Okay. If we could go to number 5, please. I do wholeheartedly agree with Commissioner Weiss on this one. I think we should allow, if a resident chooses options, I'm always in favor of options, if they want to have a separate metered connection, we should allow. I also agree with his analysis that affordable housing, workforce housing is solved by having more markets on the unit, but not being labeled that. It's just having smaller units at a more affordable price. I am a little concerned that we jumped right to deed restrictions on that one. That's concerning, Mr. Brown. But yes, if we are giving some tax incentives, and we are giving them money that's different, but we're talking about people that already own their home, that are maybe are the private sector helping us solve a problem, and maybe helping them too, because if they have, some extra space on their lot, that's one more unit they can build, put on there, and one more place available for people to live. So thank you for your comments, Commissioner Weiss. Also, if we could go to number 6, please. I do agree with Commissioner Woodward on, I do like the waiver process. This has to be a case by case. It has to be parking. If we are requiring reduction of parking, it needs to be near larger transportation hubs. It's already a huge issue in a lot of places. Let's not compound it and make it worse in the name of affordable housing. Again, I understand affordable housing, workforce housing, but we have to find that balance with our infrastructure and our parking and so on. We can't just throw it all out the window to get units because it makes the residents that live here miserable. So I do like the idea of a case-by-case basis on this, so thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think I am all finished.
Thank you. Commissioner Flores.
Thank you. So I want to go back to 5, the accessory dwelling units. Can you explain to me that first sentence and partially supported where you removed the kitchen?
Yes. The code used to require that the kitchen in the accessory dwelling unit be removed when the owner of the property vacated the main house on the property.
So we eliminated that, correct?
That was removed from code. That was a change that was made, I believe, last year, but that change has been made.
Awesome. In this particular item, I echo Commissioner White's comments regarding the separate meter. I think it should be a completely separate meter, and the deed restrictions, I mean, we have to incentivize them for them to have a deed restriction, so. And I like Commissioner Woodward's comments regarding having follow-up discussion on this particular issue, so. Item number 6, once again, I agree with Commissioner Woodward and Baxter, Vice Mayor Baxter, regarding the waiver. I do like the changes that are being considered for allowing less parking spaces, but we have to be very careful when it comes to making a sweeping change across the entire county, and we got to make sure that we respect the different communities. So I like the waiver process. Item number 9. Okay. What did I see here? So, county should implement the applicable recommendations. So what are those recommendations?
So within the Housing Leadership's plan, there were multiple recommendations on different things, and we've sat down with them on numerous occasions, going through, sharing with them those things that we're currently doing here in the county, things that we could support that may require Board of County Commissioners approval. What I can do, Commissioner, is make sure you have either the plan or a link to their plan, which the board did support and endorse in order for them to secure more funding to create more affordable workforce housing here in the county.
Okay, so that's the plan we're talking about here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then number 11, the last one. So we always keep talking about traffic and mass transit and employment. I think, and it behooves all of us to start thinking about this a little differently, because today we have employment hubs. West Palm Beach has a majority of traffic coming into the city. You have that in Gardens, you have that in Boca, and in different areas of the county. We have to create other employment hubs throughout the county to spread out traffic so that not everybody's heading to the same direction every morning. There was a study done by the regional, South Florida Regional Transportation Planning, and they said, and I'll use Green Acres as an example, there is 16,000 trips going outside of Green Acres every morning and only about 5,000 to 6,000 coming in to Green Acres. So we have to reimagine the county, and we have to create more employment hubs as we try to solve some of these issues throughout the county. So I just wanted to bring that up here because I think it's fitting, because we're all talking about traffic. We have to be able to divert traffic other places, and usually most of our headaches are between 7 in the morning to 9 or even earlier, and then 4:30 to about 6:30, 7 o'clock. So we really have to start considering where we could create these other employment hubs. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple things. On number 3, under supported, it's anticipated that the BCC will consider the proposed change for adoption in August of 2025 for the allowance of flexibility and densities for affordable housing. Has there been a study that would look at what the increase in the number of TDRs from 5 to 7 would do, or the impact that that would have?
Commissioner, I don't think we've looked at it that way. In fact, I would say that the TDR allowable densities, I'm not sure they've ever been modified since initially adopted in the plan 20 some odd years ago. But not taking a deeper dive at what they do, I would say this: when TDRs were created, that was the only bonus density program. Since then, you have workforce program as well, and certainly processed a number of other comprehensive plan amendments. So the world in achieving density has changed a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. My colleagues have indicated under number 5, affordable and accessory dwelling units. This would indicate that when we are talking about separating the electric hookup, this is only for unincorporated Palm Beach County, correct? Okay.
Correct.
Thank you. We go further. I think it was number 6 where we talked about parking, correct? The reduction in parking and guest spaces. It's a little bit challenging. I think this is something that we should really kind of study, and this is, again, only for unincorporated Palm Beach County, correct? And this would be those developments that are now being developed. This is something that we should have take a deeper dive in terms of a study. I don't want to be partially responsible for creating a tow company wealth plan where we create these new developments and people are parking in places where trying to get in where they fit in, are making spaces, and the tow companies are coming in and towing people's cars for more than many of these people can afford to pay. Or even, I know there's been instances where people have had their cars towed and the storage fees get so high that the people just leave the car there. This is a challenge that we really need to look at, and it concerns me. I know we, of course, want to make accommodations for the cost of living and making sure that there's a number of units available, but also while doing that, the two most significant costs to people in terms of being able to live are housing and cars. Unfortunately, we live in a place where some people are living in their cars. So I don't want to be responsible for the tow company wealth creation model, which is obviously going on in Tallahassee if you have students who go to either FAMU, FSU, or TCC. Tow companies are really raking in the funds. Number 11. My counterpart, our colleague, Commissioner Flores, indicated with regard to supporting development near transportation hubs and major employment centers and mixed-use developments. In the world of planning, when you start developing a lot of commercial uses in different areas, you start to really create sprawl, right? And the problem we have is not more so the hub of where the employment is, it's the spatial mismatch of where people are working and where people are living. And the idea of neo-traditional design or mixed-use development, a lot of times we've seen where it doesn't work, where we say it's the live-work model, where you can live in a building and then work in that same building. Unfortunately, let's say there's an ice cream shop downstairs. The cost of rent above that building is so high that whoever's working in the ice cream shop is normally not able to live in the building above. So we create this spatial mismatch. And until we figure out how to create jobs where people are able to live in those areas, and I call it, when I came back from my grad school training, or when I came back to Palm Beach County, we were all into new urbanism, neo-traditional design, and what works. And right here, the place that was supposed to be new urban, live, work, was not working. People who lived there couldn't afford to work there, and the people who worked there couldn't afford to live there. So it was a lot of in and out in terms of trip generation. So that's something that is a larger scale that we need to look at, but it's also more comprehensive because it doesn't just involve the county. It also involves the municipalities and making sure that when we create these employment centers that the jobs are created that will pay people what's necessary to live in those places. Those are my only observations. I'm in support of what we've all decided to put forward in terms of moving forward with this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Baxter.
Thank you, Mayor. So Commissioner Powell kind of beat me to it a little bit on number 11 with the idea of employment hubs and not working. I believe our ULDC, prior to myself even being here, had some live, work, play aspects to it that were found not to work. And so to the point of people who live there can't afford to work there, and people who work there can't afford to live there, they don't necessarily work. And so I don't want to go down that path again of trying to create that. And so that's pretty much what I wanted to say in regards to that. Now, there are certain instances, I do believe that's not necessarily sprawl, that it makes things more convenient so people don't have to travel as far, but we're not creating hubs out of that. We're having certain services in certain areas that can provide that for residents. That I would support, but not creating just these employment hubs of sorts, because really it's been proven not to work. So thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Sachs.
These apples are good. Thank you, whoever provided us with apples. Two quick questions, Madam Mayor. One, this is only for the county. How are you going to let us know? We've had questions here about Green Acres, West Palm Beach, Delray Beach. How are you going to let us know which cities are also in conformance with the county's recommendation on these issues of affordable and workforce housing?
So Commissioner Carlos mentioned earlier, so there are a number of cities that are their own entitlement cities. They receive their own funds. They have their own advisory committee. They work with their commissioners, and then those cities make their decisions. And then there are some municipalities that do not receive a direct allocation of state funds, and we, the county, work with those municipalities. That's where we've had our Commission on Affordable Housing engaging and continuing to encourage them to engage those cities where we assist their residents with our state funding.
So when we talk about cities up here, we don't know today, as we vote on this issue, whether or not the cities that many folks up here represent will actually be complying with accessory units or parking or any of that, because this is only for county.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I think it's a courtesy to the commissioners, because many commissioners represent cities, that you would let us know at some point, all of us, which cities are in compliance and which cities are not. So that when we go back to represent the people in our cities, that we can let them know, yes, there's going to be, we are recommending that you can have an accessory unit or that parking or any of the other recommendations, which I think are good, are part of the whole county plan. If you could. One last question is, we have some interesting ideas that came up, and I think that they're excellent. How do we proceed now, Madam Mayor, if we're going to vote on this, and if we want some changes done, how do we proceed on this vote today?
Well, I'll take both questions. And first off, again, we are only dealing with the unincorporated areas. We can't tell a municipality what to do. We can't withhold anything from them because they're our partners, but we have no jurisdiction over a municipality, zero. What we do have jurisdiction over is whoever is getting dollars from us. That's where our jurisdiction lies. We can't tell a municipality that they have to have a meter or not have a meter. We can't do that. We have our own codes, they have their own codes. So that is something we have no purview over. As for what we're going to do today, I think we're pretty concise about what we need to do today. And I think with the opinions that we've heard from everybody, it's very easy to go through this list and say, we want separate meters, we want waivers, and the recommendations, your last page, sorry, go to this. Sorry, I will get it in a second. I'm sorry, number 9, while we supported the Leadership Council's Housing for All and endorsed it, it didn't mean that we took everything that they said in that plan and made it ours, because there are some points that we don't agree with. But we did that so that they can go forth and get funding. Okay, so from what I'm hearing from the rest of the board is the way this is written, other than the meters, making sure there's still waivers for parking, and the fact that it's for the Housing for All, it is, while we've endorsed their plan, we are not implementing their plan as our plan. We have our own plan.
Yes, ma'am.
So that is what's on the table right now. Have I not said it properly? I'm not getting any feedback. Commissioner Flores, you have a...
Nope, I was just going to make the motion to approve with the addition of separate meters on item number 5.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
As far as the ADUs, because I think it was, separate meters were one part of it, but I think that there were a number of issues, and that's why I asked, could that be brought back to us so we could have a full understanding? Because some jurisdictions, I think we have a number of changes we would have to make, because right now you have to be a family member also to do this. There's a number of things that I agree very much. This is a great way, and also if we have seniors living in homes, this is additional revenue for them to maybe stay in their homes. There's a lot of good things that could come from this, but I think it's more than just the meters. So I'm curious, is this something that can be brought back to us and we have a full item to discuss all the different regulations we currently have and what we could change?
Yes, it can, and we would strongly recommend that so we can lay everything out for you and get down to some of the minutia up to the larger points, yes.
Okay. I'd like to second the motion, but just to be clear that that ADUs needs to be brought back with a broader. Would you be willing to amend your motion?
Do we need to make a motion today, or can we just table this until?
We need to make a motion today for this portion of the agenda, because this needs to get moved forward. The ADUs, I think
Direction?
you're looking for a motion, not direction, correct?
Madam Mayor, may I ask a question to Commissioner Woodward?
Sure.
On this, because I think we're all in agreement on the dual meters, I think if we left the motion the same, we can still address the other stuff later. It doesn't prevent us from doing that.
Correct.
I just want to make sure that we do address it later, because there's a number of different
Agreed.
ordinances
Absolutely.
that we have that would prevent people from being able to do this.
Yes,
Yeah.
and also if someone is getting dollars from the county, there should be a deed restriction. But if they're not getting any assistance from us, there's no need for a deed restriction.
Agreed.
So do we keep the motion on the table? And then I would like to bring this back with a time certain so that we can fix this by whatever timeline we have.
Okay. Agreed.
Commissioner Baxter, your light is still on. Good. Commissioner Woodward, your light is on. Do you have clarification and clarity?
Mayor, yes, and I want to chime in as well on the parking. We have previous board direction working on that as well, so you're going to be seeing those changes as it relates to the ADUs. We're stacked February, March. It might be April or May, but we'll be back to you with a full discussion.
That does not affect what we're doing here today, though.
Correct. I think your point today is to address these recommendations so they can move forward, HED can move forward with these provisions. What you're directing us, these couple points, and somewhere we have previous direction, would go to ULDC changes potentially.
Okay. So we have a motion from Commissioner Flores, a second from Commissioner Woodward. This is on item 5E2. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? See that the motion carries 7-0, and we did make notification that we were going to take a lunch break at 11:45. It is 11:44, so we are going to adjourn for lunch and come back at 1:15. Commissioner Flores.
I just want to go back to that point we just talked about, creating a time certain that this is going to come back to us, because I believe that they have till March 19th.
March 13th.
So does staff want to give us a,
We received,
Next workshop date.
just as clarification, we received the direction from the board of what we need to change for this year's transmission, and we'll go forward with that. And then we'll bring back the other discussion.
do we not, I'm asking the board, do we not want to do it by the March 19th? No?
It's the 13th, isn't it? Not the 19th?
We're going to submit to,
It's done.
by the 13th is our goal to submit.
I think
already
what
done.
their staff is telling you is that they're going to incorporate your changes and send it forward by the March date with your changes.
I understand that, but my question is regarding Commissioner Woodward's comments that she would like to address some
The
other
ADUs.
issues.
Okay, I didn't
And
understand
I'm asking
that.
if we want to do that by the March 19th date.
That's up to the board.
I think
If I could, because we're talking a ULDC change at this point, correct?
There would be, and I would tell you that your February agenda is extremely busy. The March deadline would be extremely busy to meet, and your March hearing would be after this 19th date as well. I'm thinking.
And just so that I understand, when we does this have to go through like a couple of readings for us to do something
It
like
would go,
this?
you would initiate for us, it would go to zoning commission to make a recommendation, then you'd be making a code change, probably two hearings.
So I agree, I'd like to have it done by then, but I don't think that we even have the timeline possible for
No,
that.
you're-
But we have to do this again every year, so this would definitely
Right.
Yes.
give us time this year to make the changes, have all the hearings we need to, and have it implemented, and then this would be a part of next year's
Right.
plan.
correct.
Okay, so.
Madam Mayor, can I get some clarification? At the last board meeting, the board asked us for some additional data that we've got included in the slides for the slides that we're following on a housing update. Do you want us to come back and present that after the lunch break? Okay.
Yes, thank you. All right, so we're going to take a lunch break until 1:15. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to Inside PBC, where we highlight what's going on inside Palm Beach County. So let's say you received a traffic ticket in Palm Beach County and it does not involve a crash, does not require a mandatory hearing, and has not been referred to a collection agency. Well, you have an option that will not hurt your driving record or force you to attend a court hearing. The clerk and comptroller's office has more details. Listen up, Palm Beach County homeowners. The Department of Housing and Economic Development